We have been plugging away on Slough Creek multiplayer. Some things are comparable to how they are in Amethyst multiplayer. For example, there are 4 territory configurations that you can choose from. And similar to Amethyst, 3 of these are centered in different parts of the map, increasingly a smaller area of unclaimed hexes. And then the 4th one, No Vacancy, gives you just 1 unclaimed hex at the start of the game if you really want a challenge. But most of Slough Creek multiplayer presents a lot of new challenges and problems to solve and bugs to fix because of it's just a much more complicated series of quests with all the different things and different NPCs and interactions that you can do. And here's one of those new things, voting on a den. When the host sets up a game, they can choose whether the host makes these major decisions or whether the majority rules. So once in the Find a Den quest, the host decides when to initiate voting, and then this is similar to when it's time to sleep. You have 60 seconds to open up your world map, and you see all the dens that have been discovered, and you can click on one to vote for it. And sometimes there will be a clear winner, and that'll be simple. If there's a tie, the host's vote has more weight and breaks the tie. And so you have that initial warning, and then you have another 60 seconds to finish voting. And if you don't do it in that time, then you snooze, you lose, and you may not get a chance to vote. And then once everybody's voted and a den has been selected, everybody can run over and meet up at that den, and then the host will finalize that selection, and the game proceeds. You can see your newborn pups. Now, we know a lot of folks have been wondering how the genetics are going to work with newborn pups, and that gets tricky pretty quickly. The more you think about it, the trickier it gets. Not only in terms of designating 2 parents in each game session, when there might be players coming and going over the course of the game, but also in terms of the social dynamics of multiplayer games, especially when players don't know each other. We thought about various ways to assign the roles of the 2 breeding parents, but we couldn't avoid either complicated usability issues in terms of designating or changing or asking permission or all that stuff, or potential awkward or unwelcome social connotations with basically matching 2 players and calling them the breeding pair. We went round and round on this for quite a while, and then Tommi said, well, of course, since the pack is a family unit, everybody is related to each other, and so they all have a common DNA. The 2 parents obviously have different genes, but all the other wolves in the pack generally are offspring of those breeding pair. Real packs in Yellowstone can be more complicated than that, of course, but we are focusing on a fairly kind of pure example here of the pack as a family unit, closely related in one way or another. And that means they share the parents' DNA in various combinations. So that was kind of the breakthrough. We can simply draw on everyone's genes when calculating the pups' genes, since they're all coming from the same gene pool. Now, this is not a perfect solution if you think about it really hard, but it works well for our purposes because everybody's genes are represented in the pups in a way that might simplify some of the real-world complexities, but it serves our purposes, and it avoids a lot of potential issues. Of course, if you do a 2-player game, then those 2 wolves are clearly the parents, and the genes will work just like they do in single-player, and that's just fine. So there are some design challenges like that, where the implementation is pretty simple once we figure out what the plan is. And there are also bugs like pups using some interesting methods to get out of the den. And then there were design modifications for multiplayer, especially in the accelerated time mode, which we expect a lot of players to use, where you can play through the entire Slough Creek arc it's about 2 hours. It's a little faster if you don't have any runs. It could take longer to grow, and it's a little longer, of course, if you take your time in certain quests. But to make a 2-hour game session exciting and fun and stuff, we've had to ramp up certain other aspects of the game, like the competitor attacks. The single-player game is designed for, you're in the Raise Pups quest for several hours, and we didn't want those predator attacks to be too kind of crazy frequent. But in multiplayer, you've got more wolves to thwart them, and so tweaking and tuning that has been taking some time. We've also tweaked other things like the wolf hunger rates. You get hungry faster because, the saying, many paws make light work, so we just need to add more work for those many paws to do. Of course, sometimes it's too much work. We had an issue with the number of attacking stranger wolves on your den is partly based on the number of players at the den. But we had an issue where it was counting all the players in limbo, and so you could have one player with a couple of players in limbo get kind of swarmed by the attackers here. It was pretty intense, but maybe a little too intense, so we've adjusted that now. So that's where we're at right now. A lot of tweaking and tuning, fixing little regression bugs like here where the food is right in front of the pups, but they can't quite get themselves there to eat it. Tommi's fixed that already, and so we're getting there. and won't be too much longer before Slough Creek multiplayer is ready to release.